Together, focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Wednesday there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show, and thank you for joining us on, of course, another fun-filled episode. I am, as always, your humble host, and today, a little bit different of an episode. It's also a special episode. Episode 500. I can't believe we've made it here. Episode 500 here on the Brian Nichols Show. 500 episodes over 4.5 years. It has flown by. And I kind of sat back and I was thinking, well, what do I want to do for episode 500? I was thinking about having a super special guest, but hey, we have pretty super special guests on quite frequently. So I thought, let's do something a little different. Let's go back and more recently we'll look specifically at some of the more YouTube-friendly episodes that we've had here when we started the YouTube channel back in early 2021. And I want to go over 5 of the more memorable episodes and ones I've really, really enjoyed here over on the Brian Nichols Show. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take a step back, enjoy some of those older episodes, and if you have enjoyed what you've been seeing here over at the Brian Nichols Show as you've been joining us, yes, for 500 episodes, well, please do me a favor as we're wrapping up today. Please go out of the way and please give us a share. And when you do, make sure you go ahead and give yours truly a tag. But with that being said, our first episode, we're going to go to episode 458. We're going back to March of 2022. We sat down with Jacob Beckley from the Beckley Foundation talking about how we can fight pediatric cancer with cryptocurrency. Take a listen.
Cryptocurrency is an asset. So it's a tradable asset. Helping out. I'm actually making a difference. We've made a significant difference in the past 5-6 months here in the amount of research we've been able to fund, the amount of direct family support that we've been able to help out with. Getting a child with cancer isn't a choice. It's not like you opt into it. It's something that just happens. And more times than not, when you have a child diagnosed with cancer, you immediately go into financial burden. And you can't pay sometimes your mortgage or your rent. You can't pay for care or your car payments, things like that. And world we've never been able to do before. And find these families, connect with social workers, and make a difference. Whether it's paying a car payment, fixing an air conditioner, building a ramp outside of a house, whatever these things are that we can help support to ease that burden, so that the families can have a better quality of life. Or not even better, just consistent quality of life that they may have had prior. That's what we're trying to do. And even so far as you mentioned lymphoma, there's been a few families that we've supported where the children have been diagnosed at such a young age, and their whole world, kids and families, the whole world revolves around cancer. Every part of their existence. And these families haven't been able to, like, for example, ever take a vacation, ever. And so we granted a few trips to Disney World with a charity called Give a Kid the World. And we were able to grant trips to these families and create memories for them, and something that they're going to remember forever and cherish. So we've been able to do a lot. And I'm just excited about where we've gone, what's on the horizon, and just all the great things that we're going to be able to do here in the future.
Yeah, well, it's one thing to actually talk about solutions. It's another thing to build solutions. And that's what Jacob Beckley was doing over at the Beckley Foundation. What an awesome conversation with Jacob. And, I talked about this on that episode. This is a personal topic to me and my family. I have a little cousin who's currently battling cancer. And, he just went in for some tests to make sure, fingers crossed, that he's, yes, still in remission. But this is it's a topic that's impacting a bunch of families. And we want to address the problems we see out there in the world. What starts with us building the solutions. So that was a great episode, and I really enjoyed sharing that with Jacob Beckley. And also, we had his cohort there, Jim Nasser. We talked about it was, and this is a later episode, I think maybe a week or so after the episode here, and we really dug into beyond what he's doing here over at the Cure Coin, and that is talking about the Cure Chain and how it's helping innovate research and technology across the board for innovation in the healthcare sphere. So thank you to Jacob, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that episode 458. Back to episode 295. We're going all the way back to August 2021. I say all the way back. It's about a year ago. But this was Revolution 2021. I couldn't make it there. I got stuck because this was part of the whole Spirit debacle where they had a situation where I don't even know what ended up happening, but a bunch of flights got canceled as they were supposed to be heading down to Florida towards the end of 2021. And so I ended up trying to improvise. I had Chris Goizetta on the scene. He ended up carrying me around on a laptop, which was fantastic. And I truly must say it was a lot of fun. And I got to meet a lot of great people, see a lot of great friends, including some familiar faces and voices here over on the Brian Nichols Show. We were joined over at Y'all Revolution 2021 by Eric Brakey, yes, the Renegade Statesman himself, and Tamina Debagorzi. Take a listen.
most firmly believe to be true, and occasionally putting a question mark at the end. We should always challenge our own assumptions and make sure that they're right. But I would say, yeah, we've never gone to Afghanistan.
Okay. All right. We'd love to see what.
Future episode coming soon. The Brian Nichols Show.
Absolutely.
This is the preview. This will be the teaser trailer.
Yeah, and we're going to make a lot of office references next time.
And make
I'm all about that.
Act against, like, why would anyone listen to some person with pink hair? Jeez, why did you go be on the left or something?
That's a stereotype.
Well, what's the thing I had found that the attacks are mostly based on?
Just another white dude telling you what to believe.
Mansplaining over here.
Oh yeah.
But when does your show start? Because this is fantastic banter. You guys are great.
We are working to get our show up and go. Oh well, Tom, I'll be a guest on the show sometime. But we're talking about getting a real show production of some kind launched with Young Americans for Liberties that I'll be hosting before the end of the year. Hopefully even sooner than that. But we got some details to work out. Everything was just going into making sure the Revolution 2021 was totally lit, and now we'll finally have some breathing time once
Well,
it's
I have
over.
something for you.
Oh, I don't know what this is.
Well, maybe you should check out Young Voices because we have a bunch of very wonderful individuals on our talent page that would be able to come on your show and talk about literally anything.
Okay, well, I'm open to that.
There you go. Here's a flyer.
Wow, you want to talk about like a sales, like right there? That was perfect. So you heard a problem, you heard an opportunity that you could help solve that problem, and you entered into the conversation there. There's already having. Put it vertically.
I don't know who any of these people are in this brochure, but they look young and they look like they have voices.
I'll do it.
Well, the thing is, I started my career
Except for
in
that guy,
politics.
he doesn't look very young.
Oh no, that's Glenn. Yeah, Glenn Beck. Yes.
It looked like Glenn Beck. It also looks a little like profile, like Colonel Sanders. Revolution 2021 all along.
Hey, my spirit's been there the entire time. I've been there with you guys in heart, and I seriously been watching you guys online, and it's been great to see everybody having such a great blast. So next year we'll be there, I promise.
This is why it's so cold here. It's because your spirit is here.
Yeah,
Must be.
haunting you specifically.
Yeah.
Orlando's the permanent hub for this conference.
Is that?
Orlando's the permanent.
It was so great to see our friends over at Young Americans for Liberty. Yes, even though it was remotely, Erica and Tamina, and we talked to so many other people out there as well. So that episode is up there if you want to check it out. 295 over on the podcast as well as the YouTube. By the way, I want to take a time out and point you, if you have not had the chance yet, head over to briannicholsshow.com and sign up for our morning sales huddle, where you will not only get the morning sales huddle sent to your inbox every single week. By the way, this week we're going to be talking about storytelling, and I'm going to be using the example of Billy Madison and the puppy who lost its way. So make sure, if you have not had the chance yet, head over to briannicholsshow.com, sign up for the morning sales huddle, and you will also get a copy of my ebook, 4 Easy Steps You Can Implement Now to Help Sell Liberty to Friends and Family. So two organizations, one organization mentioned Young Voices, great organization. Tamina brought up, I cannot recommend them enough. And also Eric brought up one of the organizations, entities that turned into his own thing. And it's Free America Now, the awesome podcast that yours truly has graced. And we have promoted here on the show many a time. So it's great to see what Eric started out as an idea turn into not just a great podcast, but he's been killing it lately. So awesome stuff there over at Young Americans for Liberty. Next episode I want to share is episode 304, and this is with our good friend who helps sell the ideas of school choice to the masses, Corey DeAngelis, and we were helping people buy school choice. Again, episode 304. Let's go ahead and hear from Corey.
Ask the individual family what they want. I mean, that's the best where I live, we have the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program. And the DC public schools spend well over $30,000 per child per year, according to the US Census Bureau. And if you want to look at National Center for Education Statistics, there's pretty clearly documented they spend over $30,000 per kid. The voucher students only receive about $10,000 per kid in the latest school year. And so they get about the same outcomes academically in DC and much higher reports of satisfaction and safety at a third of the cost. Of course, the media is going to focus on the test score results, which are about the same between the two sectors. But oftentimes the media will overlook the fact that the satisfaction rates are much higher, the attendance rates are much higher, the reports of safety are much higher, all at a third of the cost, which is just a win-win scenario for taxpayers and the users of the program as well. So yeah, but look, there's tons of scientific evidence suggesting that students using voucher programs are more satisfied. There's about 30 studies on that topic. Almost all of them, if not all of them, find the students using these programs are more satisfied than they would have been. They report higher levels of safety, and there's also 6 studies linking school choice to crime reduction, and all 6 of them are peer-reviewed and find statistically significant reductions in crime, which goes to show you families are choosing these schools based on a lot of different things that aren't always going to be measured by test scores. They might be measured by something captured in these reports of safety that aren't measured by math or reading test scores. So it could be the safety of the school, it could be the gang activity in the school, it could be these other non-cognitive environmental outcomes that are improved that can't be captured just by a math or reading test score. But again, I'll just go back and say, look, you don't know better than this family that knows for their own kid. They should be able to have that choice. And if you think otherwise, the burden of proof should be on you as to why we should force these kids into schools that are failing them.
Look at that old studio there. Oh my goodness, that's the old Philadelphia studio. But don't worry, we're over here at Studio 77. We're happy in Indiana, so no more East Coast shenanigans. But no, we're lucky to have Corey DeAngelis on our team. He's fighting the good fight, helping get us focusing on funding students, not systems. That actually was one of the inspirations for our Fund Students, Not Systems line over at Proud Libertarian. I'll talk about that more later. But yes, you can go ahead and check out that episode with Corey DeAngelis, episode 304. We have 2 more episodes here, folks. We'll go episode 337. This is when I sat down with Adam Krigler from The Krigler Show, and we talked about the superpower that is being a good person. Take a listen.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that lack of purpose for a second, because you said that, and a light bulb And people nowadays are spoiled. Like, we don't have to work that hard to get certain things. Some people are really lucky, but one thing is true. We aren't, this is quote, it keeps popping in my head. It's popped in my head a couple times. Those who worry about microaggressions have never had to deal with macro dangers. We have taken care of the macro dangers in life. Yeah. Now, what is it now? What is a macro danger? Okay, a hurricane maybe if it hits your town, a tornado, I don't know, a plane crash, or I don't even want to say war because I don't want to jinx us, but my goodness, we finally got out of the war that probably shouldn't have been in the first place, but that's neither here nor there. What is the macro dangers that we deal with? We don't deal with them. People don't understand how good we have it. And that now that's the new baseline, now they're getting entitled. Now they're being offended by stupid things. That's why this whole where we are with like the PC police and the push culture, SJW movement, it's like they are needing a purpose because they don't have it. We talked about purpose. So they're finding purpose in this new rage, right? Anger is addictive, right? Man, I'm like, my mind has always been working on the problems in society. It's kind of like, because I'm my daily show, my eyes are glued to the news. I'm reading what internet's angry about, what news is popping, and these people just are so angry. But then I look at them and what they're doing in their lives, and they're not focused on themselves. They're focused on others, and they're focused on being a victim. And that spoiled attitude that since we got rid of all the macro dangers, has led us here. And then now those people are having kids, and then those kids are even more entitled and more like, the world isn't helping me. And then you even mentioned, education systems teaching them to hold their hand through life. Like, let me hold your hand through all right, good luck with life. And they're like, what is this? This isn't easy. This is your fault because it's not easy. No. Hard for life. Life is tough. If you don't work for it, you're going to be left behind, and they're getting left behind. So end of rant.
That was a good conversation with Adam. I really enjoyed that conversation because it focuses on things we talk about quite often. We focus on the morning sales huddle, and I brought this over in the episodes here on the podcast. Not so much on the YouTube, but this is over on the podcast, a podcast exclusive. But the idea of surrounding yourself with good people, because good people bring out the good in people. And I think it's super important for us, especially in a world where we have seen so many people lose their way, to find those who are grounded, who have the principles, who are rooted in not just good ideas, but have rooted themselves in communities that are shared in those values. I mean, partly that's why I've moved out here, is because I wanted to get away from the lack of values, the complete apathy for one another that was over in the Northeast. I just, it's not conducive for a comfortable living arrangement, especially when you are so outside of the mainstream way of thinking of people in that area. So, the superpower of being a good person, I would say what we learned here is to not only find the value, but also to do good, to go out and do good to others, to help others. And it's difficult because we have to have our own house, and to quote Jordan Peterson, you gotta go have your own room in order first. And that's something that we all have to focus on individually, but it's okay to ask for help. So a great conversation with Adam Krigler. And now, yes, we're going to wrap things up with the one and only Dr. Adrian Bajan. Now, we had him originally back, it was July of 2021, and we were talking about, and also the inspiration for a shirt. It's funny, we had our good friend Corey DeAngelis mention the fun students, not systems. We also have Dr. Adrian Bajan here become the inspiration for the Freedom is Nature shirt that we have, and Freedom is Science shirt that we have, and also other swag over at the Proud Libertarian shop as well. But here, we're going to go ahead and check out Dr. Adrian Bajan, Freedom is Nature, here back in July of 2021. Take a listen.
Well, thank you for bringing up the F word called freedom. The Well, I'll begin with your answering of your earlier question about how I was thinking while keeping my mouth that. There are other victims to the regime, but that's another topic that requires something else with which I'll conclude this discussion. Ask me, please, at the end, what makes a better science? So that's pretty much the reason why I decided to champion the use of this word. Why in my most recent book, the title is Freedom and Evolution. Clearly, or I should say obviously, obviously, without freedom, there is no evolution. Meaning that, of course, on this campus, famous here at Duke University, everybody is gaga about evolution. Well, they mean, of course, Darwinian evolution. That can be their bag, but as I pointed out with the river basin and with the city traffic, evolution is not let's say, an invention from biology. Evolution is, in fact, a very old Latin word, evolvere, which means to roll out, to roll forth, and it captures the image of the birth of an infant out of his or her mother. And in the same ancient culture, the mother was natura, nature, she who gives or gave birth to everything. Well, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good culture, the one that captures, let's say, what is so succinctly. And so evolution is accepted, it is spoken, or hardly controversial. And to my astonishment, when I was trying to get this book published, Freedom and Evolution, I detected in the anonymous reviews the uneasiness of reviewers and editors and literary agents to touch this thing, you see. Yeah, that's right. So the more uneasy they were, the more determined I became to not to shut up.
I like that. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Well, you had a couple.
There we go. Dr. Adrian Bajan is easily one of my favorite recurring guests, and he's out there in academia fighting the good fight, which is brave and dangerous, because we've seen so many professors who have put their names and careers out there ultimately face getting cut or reprimanded in some way, shape, or form. You said Jordan Peterson, Brett Weinstein. This is not uncommon. So thank you, Dr. Adrian Bajan, for being out there and leading with the fact that, yes, freedom is nature. So there you go, folks. There are, holy cow, 500 episodes. And this was just 5 of the 500. I hope you enjoyed the quick overview of some of my personal favorites. And if you did, I would love to hear about it. Please give me a shout. Email me, Brian at briannicholsshow.com. And by the way, if you enjoyed today's episode, then you're going to really enjoy our most recent episode. We had Michael Cipher here. I'll actually go ahead and share the screen again. We had Michael Cipher on the program. Michael, he is the CEO and founder of Public Square, and they're creating a parallel economy that's helping defeat wokeness, helping connect business owners and entrepreneurs. I will include that link here as we wrap up the video. I will make sure I see you there. But with that being said, folks, one last reminder, if you have not had the chance, head over to briannicholsshow.com and check out the Brian Nichols Show shop, where you can go ahead and find not only our Freedom is Nature swag that Dr. Adrian Bajan had helped inspire, but also you can help find our Fun Students Not Systems swag. We have shirts, garden flags, big flags, stickers, and more. So head over to briannicholsshow.com/shop and be sure to use code TBNS at checkout for 10% off. But with that being said, thank you for joining me on. Yes, today is episode 500. I appreciate each and every one of you. You have helped us reach tens, hundreds of thousands of people. And I would dare say, with our appearance over on Tim Pool, millions of people. So that's just absolutely incredible. I cannot thank you all enough. And please, if you continue to get value, all I ask is that you continue to share the episode. Please continue to reach out to me, give me a shout, let me know what value you are getting from the program, And hey, if you want to go ahead and suggest topics for future episodes, you have questions that you want answered on future episodes of the Brian Nichols Show, head to the comments here on YouTube. Give me some ideas or give me some questions. Or if you want to go ahead again, email me, brian@briannicholsshow.com. But with that being said, thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Brian Nichols Show. With that being said, it's Brian Nichols signing off for episode 500. That's right. We'll see you next time.
Listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.
Oh my Lord, so many lights.